Today we're going to be talking about volume of prisms, and we've already learned that the volume of a rectangular prism is equal to length times the width times the height. And so let's look at an example. I have a box here. It's not a very tall box, but it has centimeter cubes in it. And these are actual 1 centimeter cubes. And so if I wanted to know how many centimeter cubes actually fit in the box, I could do the length times the width times the height. So let's just check it out. The length, how many centimeter cubes are there? I already counted these ahead of time. There are 20. So the length is 20. Next, we would count the width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the height, how many do you think are in here as far as height is concerned? Well, I know the answer to that, and there are only 2 rows of cubes stacked on top of each other. So if we want to know how many centimeter cubes can fit in this box, we would have to do 20 times 5, which is 100, times 2 is 200. Now, what units would we use? Well, these were centimeter cubes, so we're going to say 200 centimeter cubed because they are cubes. This is 3 dimensions. Whenever you have 3 dimensions, you're going to have a cubed unit. Now, that's a review. But what we're going to learn today is about the volume of a triangular prism. Now, this is a hollow one, so I can't put the cubes in it. But if I could put the centimeter cubes in it, the question is how many of these would fit into here? Also, I would have to be cutting some a little bit because they wouldn't fit in perfectly. But there's a formula for doing it instead of having to fill this up with centimeter cubes. So we're going to look at how to figure out the formula, not just of a triangular prism, but any prism. If you look at a prism of any sort, it has 2 of the same shape on each end. In this case, it has a triangle at the base and a triangle at the top. And so if we know the formula for area of a triangle, which we just learned, we can figure out how to figure out the volume of this whole thing. How many centimeter cubes would it hold? So the first thing we would have to do is know the area of the base. In this case, the base is a triangular shape. So let's look at this. Area of the triangle, we just learned this, was base times the height divided by 2. So let's measure and see what the units of this are. Okay, so this is 7 centimeters. Times the height. And measure the height from the point down to the bottom is 6. Okay, and divide it by 2. So let's do it. What's 7 times 6? 42. Divided by 2. And what are we going to have? 21. Now this is just the area. So how many of these would just fit on here? If we could cut them in half and make them fit perfectly on the triangle, it would be 21 centimeters squared. But how do we figure out the volume? Well, it's a bit of a combination of area. You have to know the area first. So the formula for volume is the base area times the height of the prism. I better bring this back a little bit, it's not showing. Base area times the height of the prism. So we just discovered that the base area of this was 21 centimeters squared. Now we're going to multiply it times the height of the prism. So I'll get my ruler and measure the height of the prism. How convenient, it's 10. So we have 10 centimeters high, and we multiply those together. 21 times 10 is 210. Now I want you to notice something here. We had centimeters squared times a regular centimeter, so that's going to give us centimeters cubed because we now have 3 dimensions. So there is the way you can find out the volume of any prism. If, let's say, the bottom of the prism was a pentagon, well, you'd have to figure out the area of a pentagon, which we haven't learned yet, but if you knew it, then you would do the area of the pentagon on the bottom, and you would multiply it by the height of the prism. So for triangular prisms, we need to know the base area times the height. So another way of looking at it is to do this, and we put a little bracket here and remind ourselves what is the base area of a triangle. It's the base times the height divided by 2. Okay, so that's the base area. So we do that first, then we multiply it by the height of the prism. Now notice something. There are 2 heights. Notice a lowercase h and an uppercase h. This lowercase h is referring to the height of the triangle because we're just trying to figure out the area of the triangle first. This uppercase h is referring to the height of the prism, so that would be this line here. So anytime we're trying to find out the volume of a triangular prism, this is the formula that we would use. Okay, now that we've done some visuals, we're going to do some on paper. So you'll see these type of questions in your textbook, and we're going to do a few together. So volume of a triangular prism, we just talked about it. First thing you're going to do, 2 steps. First, you're going to find the area of the triangle, or the area of the base. In this case, the base is a triangular shape. So we do that first. Once we know that, we multiply the area of the triangle by the height of the prism. And notice that this height is capital H because it's the height of the prism, whereas the height here is a lowercase h because it's just the height of the triangle itself. So let's do this one. First step, find the area of the triangle. So let's look at this triangle. We see that the base is 5 and the height is 8. Okay, so 5 times 8 is what? Base times the height is 40. Don't forget to divide it by 2. So then we have 20. So down here, we're going to write 20 because the base area was 20. And that is meters squared. Now we're going to multiply that by the height of the prism. So this length here, or height of the prism as they call it, is 10. And that is just regular meters. It's not meters squared, just meters. Okay? So now we have 20 times 10, which is 200. Interesting, it was similar to the volume of the other one. And the units will be meters cubed. Because it's volume, it's always going to be meters cubed. But you can see why it's cubed because you've got 2 here and 1 here. So you now have 3 dimensions. So that's how you can find the volume of a triangular prism. Let's do another one. This one looks a little different, but it's the same idea. So again, the formula is the volume is the base area times the height of the prism. So I put it in 2 different colors because the first thing we have to do is find the base area. And so I would expect you to write this out. So the base area is the area of a triangle in this case. So what's the base of this triangle? 6. Okay. What's the small h, or the height of this triangle? 4. Okay, 6 times 4, don't forget we're dividing it by 2. So let's do that. 6 times 4 is 24. Divided by 2, you're going to get 12. Now let's not forget, let's change the color here. We also have to multiply it by the height of the large prism. So let's look at the height of the prism. Some people call it length, but we call it height for a reason, and you'll find out more when we start doing different shapes on the base. But let's call it height with a capital H for now. So it's 11. And so then I forgot to put my equal signs. We always have to put our equal signs here. So what is 12 times 11? Well, we can do 12 times 12 is 144, and then just take away 12, and we would have 132. There is a catchy way of doing the 11 times tables as well. You can do 12 times 11. If you notice 1 and a 2 here, it's a 1 and a 2 here, and then you add the outsides together and you get a 3. So that's a quick way to multiply something times 11. Anyway, regardless of how you get your answer, even if you use a calculator, that's fine. What units are we going to use? We always look back to see what the original units were, and they were centimeters. And since we're doing volume, it's going to be centimeters cubed. So hopefully that helps, and you can get started in your textbook. If you think you need a little more help, you can come to our math meeting at 11 o'clock, and we can work on a few of these problems together. So have a great day. See you later.